Okay, I'm here with Coach Bowen. He's a head coach at Ancilla College who ran his entire roster through my 3-month development program. I wanted him to speak honestly about what changes were made to the team, kind of what mattered, and what most players get wrong when they try to prepare for the next level. So, Coach, you work with athletes every day. What physical qualities actually separate players who survive at the college level versus those that actually don't?
All right, thanks for having me, Nate. First of all, thank you very much for helping assist with that program. It's definitely been a breath of fresh air as a JUCO coach. Schedules are crazy, and it's a really a grind that you kind of got to go through to appreciate. So just being able to take that and mold it into what worked for us as a
Mhm.
scheduling purposes, it was really great for that. And I'm sure we'll get into that later with some of the questions you have. But yeah, so the old saying is like the best ability is availability. Okay, so that rings true. And Nate, you play college ball, so you've seen some of the biggest, strongest guys get hurt time and time again and not be able to make it through a season. And likewise, you've seen some guys that maybe aren't gonna like really impress you in the weight room per se, but those guys are constantly able to perform at a high level and do it for 50-55 game season.
Mhm.
So that's really, to me, you've got strength, speed, all those qualities, and they are great qualities to have. But really, the true unicorn is the guy that's got the strength, the speed, right? They've got a 95 mile an hour arm, they're 6'6", 60, all those boxes. And on top of that, they can sustain a 50 to 55 game season. Those
Right.
are really hard to find. I mean, those guys are your Division One players. Um, so for me as a coach, what really helps guys survive is just physically the stamina, I guess, more than anything, the stamina to compete at a high level and to do it day in and day out, double headers, playing again 50-55 games in a 2 month span. So those are the really the key physical qualities that stick out to me. And with that, obviously comes like your mobility, your flexibility. I know that's something that was incorporated in your plans as well, and something that specifically my pitchers were really happy on about that they had that component of their mobility, because that's what's going to ultimately help you sustain those long seasons is your body's ability to bend, move, and continue to do it over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I can pretty much completely attest to that. Being a guy who really struggled to stay on the field myself, I completely agree with that point. And that those are definitely staples I think should be incorporated into any programming to make sure guys are healthy and available, for their team. So completely agree there. When the team started the program, and I know we kind of got into the program, as soon as the guys really got on campus. Um, but were they physically falling short in maybe some categories, maybe just like an eye test compared to maybe what you expect as a college coach?
Sure. I think one of the biggest things I can pinpoint, and I know it's interesting because you're not a pitcher, but for my pitcher side of it,
Mhm.
this happens at college a lot. You get these guys, they have great high school careers. They pitch in American Legion ball, travel ball, all these different supplemental teams. And then you finally get them to college and they're worn out, so and a lot of that becomes because they didn't have the right preparation. They weren't giving their bodies a proper rest. They didn't have the right regimen that incorporated those flexibility and mobility things that I just spoke about a minute ago. So one thing is my pitchers definitely highlighted that they were able to work through some of those arm fatigues and some arm pains just with again the flexibility mobility aspect of your training. That definitely helped my pitchers get over that physical hump of essentially just being tired, um, and having arms being worn out and fatigued. So that's one thing I did want to highlight on the pitcher's end. And then I mean, falling short, and we talked about this again as well, as getting a bunch of freshmen, you've seen them play a little bit in high school, a lot of video, stuff like that. But, the true eye test is seeing them in person and grinding with them day in and day out for a period of time. So I mean, what I can tell you is that the guys that took the program and really ran with it, I'm thinking of a couple in my mind, like in particular, treated it as God's word, man. Like the one kid put on like 20 pounds of muscle. Like he came in like a rail, super athletic. I mean, he could run, very strong pound for pound when he got to campus. But I mean, he's walking around now, and I mean, he's got traps. I mean, he's very
Hmm.
big and put together.
Yeah.
And he, he gave all the credit to. I mean, obviously he did the work, but what you put together with him, and as far as a guide, is something that he attributed to helping him physically, improve in just a small period of time. So, and I know we'll talk about that later in a later question.
Right. Yeah, yeah. That's a perfect segue, really, because I was wondering what kind of maybe measurable changes you've seen as a coach. And it's different in my lens than yours, maybe, because you get to see these guys walking around campus, going to practice, throw bullpens, hit BP, stuff like that, whereas I really don't get that piece. So I'm curious what kind of maybe measurable changes you've seen both on the field and maybe in the weight room, or hell, just the kid walking around, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
What kind of changes have you kind of seen there?
Well, first, I just want to say this year in particular has been by far probably our healthiest fall. And I mean, again, you've seen it, at Anderson, like guys
Mhm.
get hurt. We actually had some 4-year teams on our schedule for this fall that had to call and cancel because of injuries, having too many injuries at one position or, you name it. And that was cool for us to be like, man, we should be having those problems. That should be like a JUCO problem. That shouldn't be a
Uh-huh.
NAIA Division 3, Division 2 problem. But either way, the biggest thing has been like our guys have been healthy. And besides from like a kid that sprained his ankle that already had ankle issues, um, pitchers. I had a kid come in, like I said earlier, with the arm tiredness and pain, and he basically had an impingement. So he spent the fall kind of rehabbing, but like our pitchers made it through the fall. I don't have anybody with any arm issues or anything like that. I had guys coming off of like torn UCLs. Like they're like one guy, you probably know who I'm talking about, but a pitcher had a partially torn UCL his senior year, didn't get to pitch a whole lot. Just seeing him be able to make it through the fall, throwing and not having any of that pain or issues. And again, he's one that mentions, the plan that you provided really helped give him some purpose in the weight room. So after 3 months, the biggest change that I've seen has been more of a year to year type of change, and that's just been the availability of everyone and being healthy. Of course, when you look at like the production or the actual, measurables per, with numbers and stuff, like the eye test, man, like BP, beginning of the year, guys hit gaps, stuff like that. Every once in a while, guy will pop one out. Now it's like guys are driving the ball in the gaps. More balls flying out towards the end of the fall. Um, and that was really cool to see. We had our we had our gray blue World Series at the end, and we had several home runs in that, which was really cool. So definitely seeing guys get stronger, and the only way you get stronger is you're putting in the work. Um, so that's, we haven't done our any radar or anything like that since we did at the beginning of the fall. I'll probably be looking to do that probably more towards the spring sometime, maybe in between a couple weekend series. But either way, just the eye test, man, they definitely they definitely have gotten stronger. And you know what? Some guys also put in more work than others, which I know you can expect that. Some guys really took it and ran with it, and some guys, just did the bare minimum. And those
Sure.
guys stick out. Um, but man, yeah, it's been really cool. Again, as a coach, man, I can't stress it enough. I just need my team healthy. I just need them healthy. You want them all to get better and progress and get stronger and faster and all that's great. But at what cost? If they're not doing it the right way and they're getting hurt or they're pushing themselves or they're not doing the right things in the weight room and they're hurting themselves or they're putting themselves at risk to get hurt during play, that really does me no good as a coach. So it's been really cool to watch guys progress and stay healthy and be able to compete while they do it.
Yeah, and what I think is really kind of funny. A lot of those guys that maybe come into, they get on campus, their arm is overworked from high school ball, from summer, and they think what they need is rest, ice, whatever, the old school methods, but really they do need certain work. So you throw work at these guys, but it has to be very structured and specific to their issues. I mean, the availability part is it's not just, hey, my arm hurts, I'm gonna sit this out for a month and see where I'm at. No, it's actually getting these guys on some proper protocol, to actually attack those problems and come back healthier. So I think it's just interesting. Those guys come in overworked, but you throw a little bit of work at them, even when they are overworked, and those problems kind of get resolved. So, um, yeah. So I guess kind of going back to maybe some things you've noticed or maybe feel, kind of want to get into maybe a team type aspect here with this question. Like, what changes did you notice that maybe didn't show up in numbers? I know the availability and stuff, but was there anything that you could feel as a coach, maybe camaraderie within the weight room or these leaders, boosting that leadership or something like that? What kind of notice or like what have you noticed within that kind of scope?
Well, it definitely, again, the guys that really took it and used the regiment like they should, it definitely brought them I don't say feeling, but more accountability.
Hmm.
There was that like self-discipline aspect. Because I know you know this, Nate, but again, with scheduling and gym availability and stuff like that, we share a public gym with the community, so it can be very challenging to get 35 guys in there at once to throw some weights around. So we do our lifting groups, and our groups are, anywhere from 4 to 7 guys, and it's just based on what their goal is. If it's maintaining their weight, if they want to add mass, if they want to lose mass. I got some groups that are pitchers, so they're a little more pitcher specific. So they work out with each other based on their schedule. So it really kind of gave them a sense of like independence. And there's that accountability piece. And it's shown in other aspects of their everyday life as well. Like it's funny, man, those guys that really like focus in the weight room and really take a plan and follow it and run with it. You see the physical gains, but also, man, you see like the student gains too. And I mean by that is like they're making class. They're getting all the work in on time. Those are the guys that are on the dean's list, you know. So there's a correlation in life in general, but specifically like when we're talking about like this workout plan that you had, those guys that really again made it a priority to apply that and use it. Um, it's been every aspect of their life this past fall has been, um, similar in comparison with results.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% correlates. I can again attest to that as a student athlete for sure. So, at what point did you kind of realize that this wasn't just a standard, run-of-the-mill type of lift, and it was actually solving problems? Nowadays, guys can go on TikTok, they can go on Instagram, they can look at, they can scroll for hours trying to build in and structure their own weekly training plan, just things online. How did this training plan kind of shift your mindset into thinking, wow, this is actually something that is giving results and solving the problems of my players?
Nate, I knew it was going to be great the moment that you came and presented it. Okay. Um, in like the world of business, let's say, if somebody just shows up and they've kind of got like this ragtag plan and they don't seem very well prepared and you don't buy that product, it doesn't feel right. When you came to our team meeting at the end of August and you showed up with these again day by day, and you went as far as to have video demonstrations on them, like that right there, I knew like, okay, this is going to be great. And again, it's not going to be for everyone because you got your guys that want to half-ass things and take the shortcuts. And some of those guys will just be that way their whole lives, and you can't really change that. They got to learn on their own, right? But you got your guys that are like They get to college, they're excited. They want to get bigger, stronger. That's what they've been thinking about all summer. Some of them have already started working on that, which I know is a question later on. Um, but they're just looking for something to run with. So when you came in and you did the presentation, and I'm sitting in the back and I'm looking around at guys, I can already pinpoint who's
Hmm.
gonna love it, like who's gonna take it and run with it, and I can find the guys that are gonna be like, yeah, it's another thing I got to do and I'll get through it, right?
Yep.
And so, again, the presentation, hey, here's my cell phone number. Hey, here's my Instagram handle, Twitter handle. Here's my again, you give them the cell phone number, reach out whenever. And I know you have done that as well because the guys have told me, I've been talking to Nate about this and that, and I've been wanting to change this up. Um, so it's the availability that you've had as a guy that put this together to the guys that I think has really kind of set it over the top. You presented it all. You got the examples of video demonstrations, like it's literally right there. And guess what? If you don't understand it, here's my number. Call me. I'll walk you through it. So that's been again that one moment just in the team meeting before they'd even done anything on your plan. I knew that it was going to be great.
Thanks, Coach. Yeah, I was pretty nervous. I was pretty nervous doing that, but you
But
know
you're good
what?
at it, and you should never be nervous about something you're good at. And
Yeah,
and the
those
guys,
nerves.
the guys love the aspect of you being fresh out of having done it yourself. You've got the credibility in that, not the overweight coach that's been out of it for 25 years, or whatever.
Yeah,
They want to hear it from you, someone that's done it recently. So I mean, that's going to be a nice component for you
yeah,
in this walk of life that you're in right now.
for sure. Thanks again, Coach.
Yep.
So if a high school player, maybe someone that you're looking at to bring in, to your school, and they're telling you like I'm lifting at school and doing a little bit of extra work on my own, maybe they're a little vague about their training. What kind of concerns would that kind of raise for you? Maybe if they're not super structured with what they're doing.
Well, um, the main concern for me is just getting her. And so like I think I'm probably gonna piece your next question. I'm assuming yours was gonna be your next question. By the way, I've got the script, everyone. Haha. Um, but question 8 and number 9 really kind of go together, and that's this, and I can attest to this. When
Mhm.
I was in high school, I did advanced PE, but I didn't do the weightlifting one. I did the recreation sports advanced PE because I love playing sports. I don't
Right.
want to throw weights around all day. I want to play the sport. So, anyways, that's what I did. I didn't really lift in high school. I mean, our high school coach, great baseball coach, but we didn't lift. We have a lifting plan. Um, and so when I got to college, I chose to go to Ancilla College at the time. We get this free membership to the Lifeplex in Plymouth, so I could start going in there. I mean, really, as soon as I signed my commitment, I got this uh, free membership. So I'm like, hey, me and my buddy, who was a football player, basketball player, baseball player, all everything, we start going to the gym. Okay, so I graduate high school, I'm 201 pounds, could never get under 200 pounds, but I was in great shape, man. But I wasn't lifting, so I was like, I want to lift and get stronger. I didn't know what I was doing, man. So what I do, I went to Lifeplex, I got on the Smith machine, we started throwing 45s on it, and we just started pumping iron, man. And that's all I did. I did bicep curls and I did
Yeah.
chest presses. And that's all I did.
Hmm.
I didn't squat. I didn't stretch. I didn't do anything for mobility. I just started pumping iron, man. So I went from 201 when I graduated high school in June of '07, and then end of August 2007, I walk on campus. Now I'm 225 and I've stacked up on my chest and I've got, bigger, stronger arms. Well, all I've done now is I've created mass. I was a pitcher, so now I've just created a bunch of mass around my shoulder, but I've done nothing to help my mobility. And I ended up, I don't know, I could tell you what I did because I can go see a doctor, but I can tell you I definitely hurt something, and at the bare minimum, maybe a slight tear and something in my shoulder that caused me to have to sit out for a few months.
Yeah.
Um, and I almost ended my career over it because I'm like, man, like I just thought all my mileage on my arm was catching up to me, but it wasn't that. It was just that I got in the weight room and I didn't know what I was doing. And my goal was I wanted to get big, strong arms from my girlfriend, and I wanted to be able to throw the ball harder. But I
Yeah.
didn't know what throwing the ball, I didn't know how to throw the ball harder as far as the lifting aspect goes. So to answer those questions with an example, you get in the weight room and you start doing things, especially, as a pitcher or someone that, is throwing the ball a lot. Um, if you're not doing the right thing, you could be doing more harm than good. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what would scare me about that.
Yeah. So not only do many athletes that are unequipped and really not informed, not only are they kind of wasting their time, wasting potential, time they could use to actually progress their metrics in a smart way, getting to the next level, whatever, they're actually putting themselves in danger. So
Mhm.
yeah, and that, obviously you have an experience like that and you have a big injury. That's going to set you back in multiple different categories, not just in your baseball career, life, living life, having an injury like that, and could definitely go the wrong way if you're not on some correct proven structure for sure. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess kind of the last question I have more so, directed to you just as a coach, as a baseball guy. If a motivated, junior or senior in high school kid asks you what they should be prioritizing right now to give themselves a real shot to get to the next level, what would you tell them?
Hmm.
It's a tough
Well,
one.
it is a tough one, and I'm a little old school, Nate. So
Hmm.
one of my answers is probably not even going to be related to working out per se.
All right.
One of the biggest things I'd say is, man, play as much as you can, sports wise.
Hmm.
Those guys that are just really good athletes, man. If you're a good basketball player, play basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to be able to do this stuff your whole life. I know a lot of guys, for sake of wanting to hone their craft and get to that next level, will drop other sports to do that.
Hmm.
And honestly, it's good and bad. All right, it's not all bad, but we see a lot of, Nate, is we see a lot of kids just getting burnt out.
Hmm.
They love baseball, they do, but they consume their lives with it. They play multiple travel teams and they play high school ball. Then they've got their pitching coach, hitting coach. And by the time we finally get them to college, man, they're smoked mentally, sometimes physically, like we talked about earlier,
Yep.
and they're just like smoked. And then you throw in there that, oh, by the way, there's other guys that got recruited and they're just naturally really good. Your three sport athletes that I just talked about. You got a guy that, didn't even put in as much training, or, mom and dad didn't spend as much money on the lessons as yours did, and you've worked your butt off and you get here and now you're stuck behind a guy at third base that, never played on a travel team, but he's just a dude.
Hmm.
And by the way, he was also an all-state basketball. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen it. So
Yep.
one of the biggest things I can tell a 15 to 17-year-old is play multiple sports if you can, if you want to. I wouldn't prioritize at that age, starting to look at your pro career unless you're like a Bryce Harper and you're already throwing mid 90s and hitting tanks and you're built like
Right.
like an Olympian god. Um, but your average run the mill 15 to 17-year-old, man, just have fun being 15 to 17. Play your sports. Um, and then as far as, the lifting aspect side of it goes, man, is just make sure you know what you're doing. What I say by that is like just make sure you're working with someone that has the credentials, has the credibility to be able to tell you what to do, because as you know, you're still growing at 15 and 17 years old. I know it, well, I'm not even that old, man, but I say the olden days, I'm not really the olden days, but there was this prioritization over like growing all the way to before you really hit the weights hard. I'm sure you've heard of that, and they probably still talk about that.
Hmm.
I know there's more research out now, but it used to be like they didn't even really like you lifting until you're later on in your teen years,
Yep.
because they were worried about you damaging growth plates and joints and stuff like that. So, the biggest thing, again, that I can say is if you're just moving around a lot, man, playing a lot of sports, doing different things that require different sports. I played tennis. I'm a big guy now, man. I was stocky in school, but I was in really good shape throughout like the last second half of high school. And I got involved with tennis, and I ended up being a pretty good tennis player. And that was just great shape, man. and it was stopping and going. I lost like 20 pounds playing tennis, which was good for me. So those are different muscles than baseball, you know. There's different types of sports and that hone in on different movements and different muscles that make you a more well-rounded athlete.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing you do as a 15 to 17-year-old outside of the weight room and outside of any sort of specific weight plan is just stay involved in different physical activities that are going to utilize different muscles and build different strengths and qualities
Right. Just
athletically.
be athletic, man. Build athleticism. You can do that
Really.
very, very strategically with other sports for sure. I also completely agree with that. But yeah, coach, that's pretty much what I got for you. I appreciate you for hopping on. I was talking to Joe, and he said you guys are going to Alabama.